With qualifying in the books and practice settled, Brian and I are back to talk all things Iowa Corn 350. We're going to look at DraftKings pricing, see where the value is, who we're rebuilding around Kyle Larson, and hopefully, fingers crossed, before we get out of here, the betting board will be up to date and we can kind of take a look at how that has moved because it has moved pretty crazily between pre-practice, then qualifying,
Yep.
the 3 days of action. So we'll talk about the corn, we'll talk about the racing, we'll talk about Mark Harris and his ever quest to find bush beer. All that and more on today's Angle of Pursuit podcast.
Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack.
Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on grass.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
Brian Twining, practice is in the books, qualifying is over. NASCAR finally realized that the starting grid has been settled for about 30 minutes now, and DraftKings was able to update their stuff. So that means we're able to record. How's everything going?
I'm doing fine now that my nerves and angst have settled down after NASCAR's blunder F of a qualifying. I don't understand how they couldn't have just taken the metrics that set the difference between Group A and Group B and just qualified in the order based on the metrics without groups. They basically told all the drivers in Group A, it doesn't matter how fast you go, you have no effing shot at winning the pole today. And
No, but NBC thought they did.
and that's another thing. Look, we were chatting before jumping on here, and everybody likes to talk shit about Fox's broadcast. NBC completely effed this up today. The fact that they were even talking as if the guys in Group A had a chance to do anything but start 6th through 10th is just beyond ridiculous. They should know better that Group B always has the speed advantage in these qualifying sessions. And even more so, like when you look at the lap times, Chase Briscoe's fastest lap in Group A would have been 16th in Group B. And so, I don't understand how NASCAR couldn't have quickly pivoted and just said, okay, forget the groups. We're just going to go based on metric. We're going to go in reverse order of metric. How effing hard would that have been?
It would have been really hard for NBC to show the starting grid and like where people are in the qualifying. They put that up for a second and then realized actually people don't need to know where these guys are qualifying. So we'll just like take it off the screen.
Oh, you're talking about the live tracker too? I don't understand that either. Like, look, I want to see.
Well, it must be their first race, Brian. There's no way that they've done this NASCAR thing before, right?
I'm like the oldest old man on TV. Get off my lawn, dude. I cannot freaking wait until Amazon Prime jumps in here because I think we're gonna get some fresh overlays. We're gonna get new ideas. Maybe we'll get to work in some betting angles more into these broadcasts, which is what's gonna draw in more fans. So yeah, I don't know. I just wish I could like mute everything, have a betting specific broadcast that we've talked about all year, and just watch it from that angle going forward.
I mean, if Worm wasn't like making his living doing this, he could easily host a live stream during the race and it would have different people on. It would be really compelling. But I am going to share my screen and we are going to look at DraftKings pricing to figure out where the value is. Kyle Larson sitting on the pole at 11K. Then we have Chris Bell, the guy that was going to be like 3-1, now is probably going to double that. 10-8, Denny Hamlin 10-3, William Byron, and even 10 flat. It's Larson and then everybody else for me. What about for you?
Yeah, we talked about this quickly before jumping on here, but if anybody's going to benefit from a track that apparently is slick to some of the drivers, it's going to be Kyle Larson. He literally just jumps in a car and drives anything to its limit. And he was one of the 3 guys that got the test here. So,
and I think there's like a split so are people going to run the high line because they prefer that?
I think it was Chastain that tested here.
Was it? It was, I know I don't remember. I know it was Bell.
It was Bell and Keselowski, but yeah. And like you were going into who's going to run the high line, who's going to do that. But Larson Larson is going to be able to find the fastest groove. And if anybody's going to be able to go to the top, if say tires are wearing and he's going to be able to utilize more of the track, it's going to be him. And with him
No,
starting
it
on the
was
pole,
Larson, by the way. In May, it was Keselowski, Christopher Bell, and Kyle Larson.
Well, even better. Like, good night. Good night, sweet dreams. See you next week in New Hampshire for everybody. So,
yeah, I want to see like if Tyler Reddick or some of the other guys are willing to push the line at the top, see if that means something for the bottom, and what that means for tire wear. Are different if you run the high line versus the low line? Are you going to have different tire wear? You're going to have to make different decisions.
yeah.
It's kind of a scary race to get heavily involved in. I feel like being a little cautious and maybe even just like making it a live betting race might be the move, but we can talk more betting stuff later. Hopefully we have reposted odds before we get out of here. So beyond Larson, Christopher Bell, obviously we were excited about him. He got to run the testing here, dominated Phoenix, starting 10th. Are you interested there, or is that, would you rather just save $500 to go to Hamlin?
Yeah, no, I think Bell's going to be really good here. I mean, yeah, he's in a backup car, but they've now had a full day or a full night to think over what they got to do. Then they got the qualifying session, and then they have, well over 24 hours now to make any sort of last second adjustments to this car. I know he qualified 10th, but if we get to a second round, if we have a damn second round of qualifying, who the hell knows how much speed they pick up in that backup car, or where anybody, makes headways on Kyle Larson's lap time. So I still like Christopher Bell this week. I'm really interested to see what his numbers reopen at, because I am completely naked on him as we sit here post qualifying, which I'm very excited about now. But I think it's also important to note, like, the practice times were not necessarily something that you can rely on when looking at who's going to be fast, because not everybody was on the same strategy. Not everybody was running a quali lap. Not everybody got to go out and run a longer period after we had the numerous amount of cautions for cars that were basically, low riding their way around the track. And then the whole Ross Chastain Dolly situation ruined the session from that vantage point. So, it's tough to look at practice times and really take too much out of that, except for there were a few outliers in terms of lack of fall off and so forth. But I think Christopher Bell is going to be fine. I'm not too worried about his qualifying effort. I mean, he started 12th, I believe, at Phoenix, and he completely ran away with that race too. So, yeah, I actually kind of like Bell a little bit more than Hamlin, maybe, even if it is the 500, because I think some people might deviate away from him after these last 2 days.
Yeah, well, and I wonder too, with him like not technically starting 10th, moving to the back, if that gives us a little bit of an ownership discount too. Especially as I mentioned, Denny Hamlin is $500 cheaper. He's actually starting 12th, and he's going to be very popular. Let's talk the next range. Ryan Blaney almost pulled it until Kyle Larson magicianed his way to the front. Martin Truex starting 31st at 9,500. Logano starting 11th at 93. Keselowski starting 5th at 92. And Tyrone Gibbs 27th, 9K. Truex and Gibbs offer a big opportunity if you trust them. And then obviously Keselowski, Blaney, more front runners, and the Logano right there. What do we do with this range?
Look, I'm still all about Martin Truex Jr., especially with him starting 31st. He's going to be heavily rostered, but I might eat the chalk with him, just knowing that if this does turn out to be a tire management race, which it didn't seem that way because lap times weren't falling off during practice. But I mean, you heard a couple of drivers come out and say like there was more wear than they expected, even with the limited fall off in terms of lap time. So, I mean, give me Truex in a race like that. Give me Denny in a race like that. But starting 31st, like I fully expect Truex to be inside the top 10 once this thing comes to the checkered, as long as he doesn't wreck out. And then Gibbs too, like they didn't look great in qualifying, but they have long run speed. And so I don't trust Gibbs as much as Truex, and I faded him in a couple of matchups. So clearly I'm definitely skewed in my opinion of him this week. I just want him to finish behind the guys I picked or I bet to beat him, but I think he's going to be fine on Sunday.
Do we think there's going to be potential value on Gibbs or Truex when we look at the betting board?
I think you'll get more value on Gibbs than you will Truex, but I could be mistaken there because we've seen it in the past with Martin where when he doesn't qualify well or he doesn't look great in practice, which he didn't, the books kind of take that as a fact. Like, I mean, this guy's just kind of riding around, and with him making the official announcement that he's retiring from full-time racing yesterday, who knows? Maybe there is kind of a week long or a race long kind of letdown weekend,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just looking like Gibbs was 6th fastest at Phoenix and 5th at Gateway. So he's obviously shown speed on shorter, flatter. Obviously, if this becomes a tire management race, you worry a little bit as he's a younger driver figuring that stuff out. But I think it could be compelling. And I think, at 9K, I think I could definitely get myself there, especially as a lot of people are going to venture towards Truex in a similar range, starting in a similar area of the starting grid. Let's talk 8K. Tyler Reddick starting 8th, Chase Elliott starting 9th, Christopher Buescher starting 15th, Ross Chastain starting 17th, Kyle Busch 7th, and Alex Bowman 33rd. A lot to get into here. I think a lot of really compelling options. Reddick and Elliott, I think, make compelling targets for second dominators. Obviously,
Definitely.
Buescher and Chastain. I know you have your I don't want to say bias against Trackhouse, but you're kind of on the Kyle Busch side of things. And then we have Alex Bowman starting 33rd at 8K, who makes a ton of sense as well. Who's jumping out to you in this range?
Tyler effing Reddick. Look, I'm going to continue to go to this play every single week until it actually effing hits because he continues to come to the racetrack with top 3, top 4 fastest car. They just haven't been able to put it together. And I think this is a good opportunity here with him starting 8th because he was in Group A and that qualifying setup was dumb as shit. I mean, he probably could have been on the front row had we gotten.
Brian, what do you think about qualifying? Do you think it was a good idea to qualify the way they did?
Oh man, I just don't understand how they thought that was going to be beneficial for anybody. They essentially told the Group B guys at the end of their group, like, oh yeah, you guys are going to be battling out for the pole. Forget the guys in Group A. Who cares how fast they are? And that's exactly what happened. Like Tyler Reddick and Chase Elliott, the last 2 qualifiers in Group A, who would have qualified 2nd and 4th respectively, I believe, if they went based on overall metric, were like slower than every single car in Group B. It was just stupid.
Yep.
And so
hopefully that gets us some value on Sunday.
I was just going to say, I'm really hoping that the sports books were not actually paying attention to how they actually did the qualifying and they just look at qualifying times, because if that's the case, I think there's going to be tremendous value on a lot of guys, especially those Group A drivers. And that might be the same thing here for DFS. If you get a lot of noobs or people that don't really pay attention to that stuff, they just look at where they qualified at. I think we could get some decent plays and leverage on some of these drivers.
Well, even if we just get, opportunity to get cars that in theory would qualify better farther back in the pack, knowing that they're going to probably move forward pretty quickly and be contenders, you're getting an opportunity to score more DraftKings points. So I think it's a very exciting potential for us. Buescher, I think, is interesting. We obviously, what we saw at Phoenix, where they kind of flipped the field and ended up getting stuck up front. But I still think RFK is interesting, and what we've seen the last few weeks definitely makes them a compelling target. I'm obviously going to be in on the Watermelon Man, even if Brian is having his protest against Trackhouse in general.
Ironically enough, I cut my first watermelon of the season this morning too. So.
Was it a Chastain watermelon? Did it go into a watermelon bush?
Oh no, and no Busch Light for me. We Kyle referenced it at the top of the show here, but poor Mark Harris at Skybox NASCAR, dude is just looking for those corn Busch Light cans and cannot find them. I went to a couple of grocery stores yesterday and I was just going to troll the guy if we had him here in San Diego, but I can barely even get Busch Light
Yeah,
in
we don't get
SoCal.
them out here in California. But if you do find them at Skybox NASCAR, take a picture or a video of you enjoying a fresh Busch Light with the corn on the can, and he'll thank you later. Let's talk
That's a nice
7K.
way of putting it.
Josh Berry, 7,800 starting third. Bubba Wallace, 16th starting 16th at 77. Cindric, 21st, who's actually going to be going to the back at 75. Chase Briscoe, 6th at 7,400, which might be the new Martin Truex replacement, which would be very nice for me.
What a way
McDowell,
to solidify that with a strong performance this weekend too, by the way.
SHR baby. We'll talk betting too, because have both Briscoe and Berry locked in at 60-1. So pretty happy with those numbers. Suarez rounds out the rest of the group. McDriver, 22nd, starting at 7,200s, jumps out. Obviously, I like the SHR guys, but those are probably more bets than DraftKings plays. Maybe if you want to get a little unique, you pick one to kind of hang up front and actually be competitive. I obviously like Bubba. Bubba over Cindric was a nice wager that was talked a lot about. Hopefully, we are able to cash that. A lot of interesting options. Who's most interesting to you from this range?
I think Bubba Wallace is an interesting case of, do you trust recent performance on short tracks versus his past history on this track type? Because Bubba, for what it's worth, has been really good on short tracks, and it's actually become possibly his best track type in the end of 2023, the early stages here in 2024. And starting mid pack, I've already talked about it. I think Toyota is going to have decent long run speed. He didn't like his car in qualifying, and he still put down a pretty decent lap. So, I think that's a good sign that if they can make some adjustments, they can hook it up a little bit better, and he'd be able to throw down some better laps. So I like Bubba. I think a lot of people kind of get off of him because of where he's starting. He's a little bit inflated in price. And then obviously I prefer to go to Michael McDowell over Chase Briscoe starting 22nd. I think there's plenty of speed in that front row team. And, if I'm going to take a flyer on somebody in this range, it would be Bubba over McDowell, but slightly.
Yeah, and I think Bubba makes sense, especially if you are in on Tyler Reddick as much as you are. I think grabbing some McDriver exposure makes sense. Bubba's actually, to your point, was really good on shorter flatter. Last year was pretty fast. This year, Phoenix wasn't great. Gateway wasn't great, but he was really fast at Richmond 1. So curious to see what he brings to the track on Sunday. Yeah, and then Suarez is hard to get to.
Yeah,
And
he's
then
starting too far up, I think, to even consider the 99.
yeah, I think there will be like if you can find the names in this range that are really good, you could find some way to be different, because I think it's going to be, you really want to pick your poison and take your shots, but like also this could be a range to just kind of jump over as we go into 6Ks, because there's really not much difference and you get to save some salary, so that's nice. Gragson, 23rd. Does he join his SHR teammates finding that speed? Are we interested? Todd Gilliland, who's just been like a top 10 machine of late. Carson Hocevar, Ryan Preece, Eric Jones, AJ Allmendinger, Austin Dillon, and Richard Stenhouse Jr. round out the 6K range. If we want to get invested at the top, we're going to have to find values down here. Is there a name or two, especially if you want to jump that 7K range and come down, that you're like, I think we can make an argument here?
Yeah, I think the only guy in this range that I'm really intrigued about is probably Ricky Spinhouse. I know his lap time sucked in qualifying, but he had run here, over a decade ago. He was really good here. And he seemed to be comfortable riding like a lane higher than the bottom line. And so if he can kind of get more accustomed to getting that bottom groove, which is going to be a little bit faster, and just ride around at 6K, like I definitely think a top 25, top 20 is possibly in the realm of possibilities here. And so I like him much better than Austin Dillon, who looked like a dump truck. Allmendinger starting 2 mid-pack. Eric Jones's car was not drivable. And then how do you trust Ryan Preece right now? And I love Carson Hocevar. He's got a lead foot, but if anybody's going to be the first one that goes into turn one and takes it a little bit too hard and wrecks, I would put him near the top of the list for that probability. And Noah Jackson is going to be too highly rostered, I think, for me to get in on him.
He'll definitely be popular in this range, but I think for the right reasons. Especially how fast he was at both Phoenix and Richmond, but not at Gateway. Let me double check what I was looking at his numbers.
Yeah, and I mean, he did throw down the fastest lap during practice, but I think it was him and Briscoe were the last two guys that were on track that were throwing down qualifying laps.
Yeah, and to your point about practice in general, like it's hard to figure out what you could take away because he was the number one car in terms of 5-lap average, but then he was 30th in 10 lap and 24th in 15. So did he have really bad fall off, or was it just a factor of the track, or like how do you?
And that's the thing, and that's like, because if you didn't watch it, you probably didn't see that there was multiple cautions that reset the field essentially, and the track was getting faster the later into the session that we were going, and Graxon's 5-lap average didn't occur until like the last 10 minutes of practice, when his other lap averages, the much slower ones, were early on in the session. So, it's too hard to take a lot away from what we saw because a lot of guys just went and pit and made adjustments without going back out and trying to do long runs and all that type of stuff before we hit the track again today. So, clearly, like I said before, I think you can look at some of it and see who had decent fall off maybe, but then in the same breath, like a lot of their runs were not done at the same time. So, you don't know what tires they were on, had they changed the tires, when in the practice session that actually occurred. Like, so there's a lot going on there.
Yeah. All right, let's keep it rolling. Go to the rest of the field. We have Justin Haley, 5,800, Corey LaJoie, 57, John Hunter, 56, Zane Smith, Harrison Burton, Daniel Hemrick, and Kaz Gralla rounding out the 5K. 5K, I mean, I feel like we kind of travel to the same names that we always do. I guess, are you interested in going back to the Justin Haley well? Any interest in John Hunter?
No.
Any of these 5K guys worth even like a sniff?
If I could, I would just avoid this entire section. I just think there's too much unknown. Like, I want guys that I trust to finish the friggin' race, not back markers that could potentially be caught up in someone else's wreck. And, I think Zane Smith is interesting. I know his rookie season has been terrible, but I don't know. I like him a little bit better than Corey LaJoie. I trust him more than Harrison Burton, I think, right now.
What a pivot for Corey LaJoie. That guy was like interesting, and then we're like, oh, is he going to move up? And then he gets to ride in the Hendrick car during the injury to Chase Elliott, or suspension maybe. And then now he's just like a dumpster fire. Like, it's crazy. So I say we build our lineups and see how deep we have to dig. So we'll start with our first one. We'll build 3 as always. I think we just put Larson in and go from there.
Yeah.
I would like to put in Alex Bowman, who was fast in practice. Huh?
I'm not a fan of Bowman, but okay.
Okay, I'm gonna push you. I'm gonna push you into him. You're up. What do you want?
Let's go with Reddick for a second dominator here.
Okay. Bubba.
All right, yeah. Now we gotta get interesting with money. I think this is a good spot. You add Stenhouse because he saves us a lot of money. He's only 6K.
It's gross, but I'm on board.
And then
do I saddle you up with Ross Chastain?
I was just gonna say, I believe this is the spot for either Ross or Buescher.
Oh, I thought I'd have to twist your arm a little harder to make that happen. Let's see.
No, yeah, I definitely think those are the ads. Unless you're high on Gragson and you think that he can top 10 this thing, and it doesn't cost us too much.
I'm interested in Gregson. I'm gonna put him in a lineup, maybe 2, but I think this is a spot to be, especially with the Stenhouse thing. I think we need to push ourselves into a little more of a reliability. And I honestly, with Larson and Reddick as potential winners, I don't think Bowman and Bubba are going to win the race. I'm going to take a guy who can potentially dust the field, and I'm going to take the Watermelon Man.
Oh, dust the field.
Well, relatively.
Look, I'll be really sad because not only will I lose all my matchups, but I don't have any outrights on Ross at 18 early in the week. So he can finish 5th, and Chris Buescher can finish 4th. And Elliott can finish 3rd. So that way I cash both of my matchups. Ross Chastain does well for our DFS play.
I like it. All right. Do we want to do the Larson thing again? Do we want to go a different direction to start? Where's your head at?
I think we probably got to have either Bell or Hamlin in a lineup.
Okay. Let's see here.
The thing is with Bell, I feel like Bell is a case where you need a safe dominator early because it's going to be a while before he gets to the front, having to start in the back.
Yeah.
So he would be like, oh, you want to get tricky and I mean, that would be
any interest in like a Josh Berry early dominator?
Yeah, do like a Berry or a Briscoe, I think would be interesting because I don't think many people are going to roster them.
I'm going to put. Who do you feel like could actually get to the front? Like, I feel like Briscoe. It's like my worry with Briscoe is that he can actually get to the front quickly ish. But then, like, stage 2, he just completely collapses. Where Berry, like, is he going to jump Larson?
I mean, it's going to be difficult for anybody that's starting behind Larson and Ryan Blaney to get to the front because both of those guys are extremely fast.
And they're good at short flat, like Phoenix. I'm going to put Briscoe in. Gives us a little more wiggle room, saves us $400.
Okay.
And we hope he can jump to the front. All right, so we can do more of this kind of like middle ground to avoid the nastiness, or we can throw in like this could be a Gragson spot.
All right, yeah, let's do Gragson.
Okay.
Because I think he's got a decent amount of upside.
And the SHR combo. And then we're looking at, basically 8K per driver. So we could do like a McDriver in 72 and then go up and get somebody up here in the 8Ks. We could.
Yeah, let's try that. Let's do McDriver and see who else.
McDriver, that gets us to 87. Then we could do Chase Elliott to go a potential early dominator too, because he could get to the
Elliott a lot.
I mean, I've invested in him on the outright market, so I'm happy to do that.
Yeah,
Buescher feels good, but like I think for this lineup, for a guy that like another contender to actually win the race.
Yeah, I would take Elliott over Buescher.
And maybe even lead laps early. I think he makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Create another NASCAR lineup. And I will give you the T who's going into our lineup.
Martin Truex Jr.
Okay. I was going to say we should probably put him into at least one, so I'm good with that. I'm just pulling up Caesars to see if they have odds yet. My guess is no, as whatchamacallit doesn't, but you never know. NASCAR, not yet.
I know where I would go.
Dennis?
Yep. That's exactly what I was thinking. This is not good that we're
not good. Not good at all. Not good at all.
Especially because I'm really not a fan of the mid-tier guys this week.
Yeah, we're not really a fan of the mid-tier, but we're also not a fan of the cheap guys, so we're gonna have to make some decisions.
The thing is like I love Justin Haley, but where he's starting, I don't think it pays because I think that's about his ceiling.
Can we load up on Toyotas here?
All right. I think you'd have to go to. I mean, if you put Reddick in there, I don't hate that.
I mean,
but then you're really scraping the bottom of the barrel.
But I don't hate it. Let's see. Give me some 6K. Let's see, 6,200s, maybe even a 5K.
Would this have to be like Stenhouse again?
John Hunter?
Oh man, I do not trust him in the Cup Series.
Do you trust Ricky Stenhouse Jr.?
I trust Stenhouse over John Hunter Nemechek.
What about Dinger? Any interest?
I think he's starting too high. If he was starting like mid-20s, if he was starting where Corey LaJoie is, I think I'd be more intrigued. But
if that gets us a little bit of a salary, I don't know. No Eric Jones.
I mean, I guess if we're choosing,
you want to put the Zane train in?
Not really, but I don't like any of these. I mean, honestly, I would probably take Nemechek over Jones just because you're saving $800.
Let's put John Hunter in. And then it's like Gilliland or Hocevar. The other option,
yeah, it really doesn't do anything for us.
The other option is we pull out
either Gibbs or Reddick. It's not both.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to take Gibbs out just to see what it does and see where it puts us. Because if it puts us near somebody that we feel good about potentially being near the front, we could go with Gibbs as a guide of a back marker to move forward. But if it gives us more of like kind of back of the, if at this point, I don't hate Bowman, I don't hate McDowell. So I was
just gonna say I think Bowman's a good play here because I think he's safe to move up to top 20.
And I think he basically does what we want Gibbs to do at a discount. Basically saves us $1,000.
Yeah, exactly.
We could do the Bubba thing again. We could do McDowell. We could do Gragson.
I mean, that's putting a lot of eggs in one basket with Noah, but
yeah. We've gone to all three of those guys. I think those of the names in this range those are the three that jump out to me.
All right, so let's put Noah in and then see what we could get instead of Nemechek.
That gets us to Priest, Jones, Dinger, Dillon, Stenhouse.
All right, of those guys, who can stay on the track the longest?
I honestly don't hate John Hunter. I think so my ranking of like the guys that I want to put in are the Dinger, John Hunter, and then probably Eric Jones. If you had to pick three guys from this range and rank them, would any of those three that I named be in your three?
It would be Ricky Stenhouse. We're talking DFS specific?
Correct.
Oh, yeah, factoring everything in. Man. Stenhouse. Dinger. And then maybe Jones.
I think it's Dinger or Jones then. And then we haven't done Dinger, so I think that's the answer.
Let's do Allmendinger.
Unless you want to go to Jones. Jones is starting way farther back. He is a Toyota.
No, I think Allmendinger is interesting because starting 18th, I don't see people wanting to get to him.
Yeah. All right, Brian, we did it. Three lineups: Larson, Reddick, Chastain, Bowman, Wallace, Stenhouse, Bell, Gibbs, Elliott, Briscoe, McDowell, Gragson, Hamlin, Truex, Reddick, Bowman, Gragson, Dinger. Win all the money on DraftKings this weekend. It doesn't appear we have lines, so we'll have to push everybody to the newsletter, aoppodcast.substack.com. The link is in the description. We will break down our favorite outrights. We will break down our favorite bets, our favorite DFS plays, and upload the full betting card on the Substack article. It's completely free to subscribe to. You don't even have to subscribe, but if you check it out, you think this is cool, you think this is helpful, give us a subscription. Costs you nothing. Gets an email to your inbox every race day, which is really nice. Brian and I
subscribe to the channel, please.
Yes,
we're only
the 70% of you,
1,000.
the 70% of you that have yet to subscribe but watch like most of our episodes, like just click subscribe, and leave it alone. We're almost to 1,000. We'd love to get there. We could do something cool if we get there, but we have to get there.
And continue also to something I've really enjoyed the last couple of weeks. Continue with the comments. Continue with letting us know what your bets are. Like, I would love to just continue the banter on these things.
Absolutely. And I love people reacting to other people's comments too. Create that chatter. Let's build a nice little community. Let's talk some NASCAR in the comments. Let's find a way to get some winning tickets. All of that good stuff. Enjoy your Sunday. Enjoy your Father's Day. Call your dad if you're call your dad if you have an opportunity to do so. If you're a father, happy Father's Day. Enjoy it. I'm going to be celebrating my first one this year. Very, very excited for that. We'll be having a nice relaxing Sunday, watching some NASCAR, having a good one. So enjoy your weekend. Let's cash some tickets. Let's hit some winners on DraftKings, and we'll talk to you next time.